Hello and a very warm welcome to Eye on Africa. These are the top stories. Concerns continue to mount about the welfare and whereabouts of a group of Nigerian schoolgirls who've not been seen now for 7 days. This as the president there admits they have been abducted. Calls for Joseph Kabila to stand down as president of the DRC turned deadly once again. 2 more people are killed after police fire on banned protesters in the capital. We bring you a special report from our correspondent. And our team take you on a guided tour of Paris that celebrates some of the City of Light's African heroes. The agonizing wait for the parents of over 100 Nigerian schoolgirls continues. 7 days after Boko Haram attacked their village in northeastern Yobe state, the country's president has finally admitted that the girls have been kidnapped. Muhammadu Buhari stressed that his government is now determined to free all of those people being held captive by Islamist militants. Well, for more from Nigeria, let's bring in our correspondent, Anna Cunningham, who joins us now live. Anna, President Buhari has finally uttered the words abducted rather than saying that these girls are still missing, which was the official line for several days. With the focus now on action, what's the latest and how are locals responding?
That's right. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that this is a national disaster, and he has promised that the full force of the Nigerian military will be out looking for those girls who were indeed kidnapped last Monday. Now, we understand that there are surveillance planes looking for the girls as well. But it's quite incredible, really. We've had a week of claim and counterclaim. And even just before we went on air tonight, we had a statement from the Yobe police disputing what the military had said about the security. The military themselves had said that they had handed over security in the town of Dachi to the police. But tonight we had a counterclaim from the police saying, no, they hadn't officially handed over security. So I think all of this is causing a lot of anger amongst people here in Nigeria who are really questioning what is going on and who is in control of the situation and the fight against Boko Haram.
And Anna, of course, clearly no real idea where these girls are at this hour. This is clearly, of course, an embarrassment for the Nigerian government, especially given that they'd long been saying that Boko Haram was now nearly defeated. Do Nigerians have faith in their leaders still?
It really is embarrassing. Yes, the Nigerian government has repeatedly said, Muhammadu Buhari said it himself, that Boko Haram was technically defeated back in December 2015. But as I said, I think really this anger, this despair from people questioning, does the Nigerian government have a true handle on the situation battling Boko Haram? And indeed, do they have the capability to find these girls quickly and not, as in the case of the Chibok schoolgirls who were kidnapped 4 years ago, and more than 100 of them still missing?
Anna Cunningham, thank you very much for that update. Staying with Nigeria, experts gathered in the capital this Monday for a 2-day conference to discuss ways to stop Lake Chad from drying up. Years of environmental decline have taken their toll on the local economy and security around the lake. A €5.3 million research and conservation programme will involve a host of countries whose borders run along the waterside. On the streets of the DRC, security forces have once again cracked down on anti-government demonstrators, leaving at least 2 people dead at a rally this Sunday. This as regional calls for President Kabila to stand down increase. Some viewers may find the images in this next report from our correspondent Thomas Nicolon distressing.
In front of Kinshasa's St. Joseph Hospital, Rossi is being carried by his friends. They say the young man was hit by police gunshots. Medical staff rush to do what they can to help him, but it's already too late. He dies a few minutes after his arrival. The doctors confirm they have no doubt as to what caused the fatal wound.
After seeing the entrance and the exit wound, I can assure you that he was shot at.
After church on Sunday, Rossi was about to take part in the peaceful rally when police opened fire. 2 other young men with gunshot wounds were being taken care of in the same hospital. They also ended up here because of police brutality.
We were 200 meters from the church after Mass. We were walking. But when we reached the boulevard, we were told to turn back. We turned around and they started shooting at us.
Authorities have been quick to point out that the protest hadn't been authorized by the governor of Kinshasa, although they regret the loss of human life and say whoever is responsible will be prosecuted.
There are strict disciplinary procedures. We check the cartridges of every soldier in order to know in what circumstances they were used. The most important message is that this incident will not fall into oblivion and that it will be punished accordingly.
It's the third time in 3 months that police have violently broken up protests in the DRC. The Congolese Minister for Human Rights has announced the creation of an investigative commission to shed light on this tragic event.
Next, 1,645 days. That's the amount of time the Cameroonian president has allegedly spent outside the country since he came to office in 1982. Those are the findings coming from a group of journalists with the backing of Transparency International, who've trawled through the coverage of Paul Biya's lavish overseas trips. The president has reportedly spent $65 million on those visits. Well, for more on these revelations, we can speak now to one of the journalists involved in that research, Emmanuel Freudenthal, who joins us from Nairobi. Emmanuel, thank you for being with us. First of all, talk us through some of these key findings, and also what are you hoping to achieve in making this report public?
Thanks for having me. So we've calculated that President Paul Biya spent about 3.5 years on brief private visits to Europe, which some people said sounds a lot like a holiday. Some years he spent about a third of his time out of the country on these private trips. As you pointed out, most of it is seems to be paid by the government, and it adds up to quite a lot. Adds up to about $180 million if you take into account the cost of the accommodation and the cost of flight for him and about 30 to 50 people who come with him. Those people could be ministers, they could be bodyguards or maîtres d'hôtel, and they usually accompany him on trips, different people. It's not very transparent exactly who comes with him. There is a bigger cost, I guess, from those trips, hidden costs, which is that there's no one at the helm of the country during those time, and not so much during the time that the president is in Cameroon. Some Cameroonians even refer to his trip to Cameroon as a short official visit to Cameroon, just as a joke. So the deeper cost of his trips is the fact that he's not really governing the country very much, and that has created a lot of resentment from Cameroonian citizens, and in particular from the Anglophone minority in the southwest and northwest of the country, who have been asking for a greater recognition of their rights. English-speaking teachers, English-speaking judges, and so on, and the laissez-faire attitude of the government has led to a guerrilla war today that is claiming dozens of lives.
Okay, Emmanuel Freudenthal, a journalist who worked on those revelations. Thank you very much for joining us from Kenya. Moving on, the Turkish president has begun a 5-day tour of Africa this Monday, starting in Algeria. Recep Tayyip Erdogan is set to hold talks with the ailing President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. His trip will then take him on to Senegal, Mauritania and Mali. Ankara is keen to boost its influence on the continent. It wants to eventually increase its number of embassies from 41 to having top-level representation in all 54 nations across Africa. And finally, if you're sick of the Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame, one Paris tour company is showing visitors the landmarks and monuments made famous by artists and intellectuals from Africa or of African descent. France 24's Clément Bonnereau and Zora Ben Miloud went on one such tour. Take a look.
I'm here on the Léopold Sédar Senghor footbridge in the heart of Paris. It was named after the first president of Senegal, who was also a writer, a poet, and one of the founders of the Negritude movement. Like him, many black artists and intellectuals have left their mark on the French capital. We begin our tour outside the Panthéon, France's national mausoleum. Of the 76 people buried here, only 2 are black. Alexandre Dumas, the author of The Three Musketeers, is one of them.
He was what was then known as a quadroon. We don't use this word anymore. It means he was a quarter black. His grandmother was a slave. The aim of the tour is to see Paris in a new light, to tell the stories of great men and women, intellectuals, artists from the black worlds. That is from Africa, the Caribbean, the United States. It's a different way of discovering the city for locals and for foreigners.
A few hundred meters down the road is the Sorbonne University. In the 20th century, it was a hotbed of anti-colonial activism. It also became the birthplace of Negritude, a concept developed by writers Aimé Césaire, Léopold Sédar Senghor and Léon Damas.
I studied at the Sorbonne in the late 70s and 80s. I was not aware of all of this activism, these networks and these meetings.
This is a part of French history that deserves to be taught more in universities and in textbooks. It's a very rich history, that's for sure.
From the Latin Quarter to Saint-Germain-des-Prés, the tour ends with Paris's iconic jazz venues, associated with the likes of Billie Holiday and Miles Davis. Kevin Donat also offers tours of Paris's right bank, exploring Pigalle and the African neighbourhood of Château Rouge.
Well, that's all from Eye on Africa. Do stay tuned to France 24.